You know, it's well documented. I've got the Manager of the Month award in the Premier League. You know, you got this person what's had the first 5 games ever, 6 games of his managerial career in the Premier League, at one of the so-called lower clubs in the Premier League, and getting these results against these real big hitters. Credit the players, the staff and everything for the way they conducted themselves was incredible, because what we did was we restored pride. Did I ever foresee us losing the first leg 4-0? No, I don't think any manager would do, not especially for us, where you'd gone into the playoff first leg and you've got the best defensive record in the league. The first thing first was to get back in the middle of the night and watch the video over probably 3-4 hour block, and just look at it till I think we got back at 1 a.m. in the morning, and I stayed up till 7 a.m. But I knew by 7 a.m. I had a game plan.
So I want to start off by exploring your current situation at Port Vale, top of League 2 at the moment. How's that been for you?
Excellent for us, really, to be top of the league, sort of 11 games in, so really, really pleased. Am I happy where the team is at the moment? Yes. Am I satisfied? No, because there's so much parts of the team, the group, the players that we have to work with and consistently work with, and that's exactly what we're doing. Christie's continuing that work. So, but at the moment, there's been good work adopted and applied from pre-season, and but we know there's still a lot of work to go ahead.
And in terms of that element of work, a lot of work to do you have to maybe keep yourself grounded within that process to ensure that you keep focused on the aims and objectives long term?
Yeah, very much so. I just call it turn the page. So, you know, after the next result, it's just turn the page and on to the next result. And because football is a real industry that you can't really harbour too much on the past victories. It's the next one that's coming real fast. And we've got another one that we have to prepare for. So really, the game in the industry does keep your feet firmly on the floor. And that's what me and the players will be doing. That really is just consistently making sure that we're improving. As I said, there's so much different parts of the game we as a team and in the football club have to improve on. And we consistently work on week in, week out, day after day, to see the work that we're putting in, seeing the results continue to come. So long way to go.
Let me bring you back to the beginning then, Darren. So kind of reflecting back on your journey, your early upbringing in Birmingham, how do you think that shaped you in terms of your footballing career? Is there anything you can remember from your upbringing that's made you, have those values that you mentioned in terms of your time at Port Vale?
I think, yeah. I mean, for me, growing up in a multicultural, multi-diverse area in Handsworth in Birmingham was a real eye-opener in terms of in an area, probably was it quite an affluent area growing up in Handsworth, but it was home. And schools from there for me was James Watt Junior and Holyhead as a senior school, and it was never a problem at school, but I had a real eagerness and a hunger for sport. And at the time, Christy, for me, the sport was what I was getting into was cricket. And obviously, coming from a West Indian Jamaican background, cricket is quite a big popular sport. And it was only when, my dad really exposed me to football at the age of probably 8 or 9, did I really then start getting my grips or get my claws into football. And that sort of energized me from the age of probably about 8 or 9. And sort of went on to do that, really. But growing up in Handsworth was really, really unique. But at the same time, I had football. That was my vehicle, really, to channel me, to push me on, and something that I wanted to do.
Do you feel like maybe through that upbringing, you mentioned Handsworth and the kind of the cultural element, the different types of individuals and people that you might have come across at that time, do you think that shaped you in terms of your management to understand people and understand how to work with different types of personalities and people?
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt, because right across the footballing industry, you're going to work with people from different backgrounds and different walks of life. And certainly growing up in Handsworth, you certainly taught that really from, it's a tough upbringing, but also I was able to be adaptable because where my football took me growing up in that area and took me outside that area into different areas, into different situations, into different countries, all of that growing up in Handsworth as at the early age, and some of the situations I was exposed to can only help and shape and mold you. And that's where that's done with me, and it stood me in good stead really for me now here, managing a football team, managing a football club, managing different people, making decisions every single day, 24/7. That's going to impact people's lives, but you're trying to do it with the utmost integrity of the job really, and dealing with the individuals and the group of people that you do deal with on a daily basis.
Did you have a sense of gratitude from maybe that hardship and that upbringing in Handsworth to where you are today and that journey that you've been on? Do you reflect on, the process that you've been on and the lucky, privileged lifestyle that you've had in comparison to maybe some of the things that do happen in Handsworth?
Yeah, definitely. For me, for what football's given me and helped me and shaped me, without a doubt, I'm so grateful for the professional game. I'm so grateful for all the people that I've came into contact with and worked with, because they've shaped me for who I am today. And I continue to do that, and I continue to rest on those experiences, those values, the ethoses that you've conducted yourself from a very early age going forward, and still applying that to the game and to my life and to my career today. So I'm really grateful for football, and that's why when I've been in it, I've served it with a good purpose, with an integrity, with a caring and an understanding, and a value to all the people that I work with, and a value to the people that I'm consistently working with now. And that has always been something, Christy, that, won't depart from me, and I'll continue to work as best as I possibly can in the situation, and try to bring good times, a feel-good factor to individuals and groups of people that you come into contact with.
Just reflecting on that time then, so your first professional career started at Torquay. How did that transition happen from being in the Midlands in Handsworth in Birmingham to kind of going down south? Can you talk us through those steps?
Yeah, the first thing was obviously youth team football. We played school football and then went on to the district football, and then from district football you try and go towards the weekend where you're playing in your Sunday league football. And what happened was, I was playing in Sunday league football, Holly Lane Colts, and the goalkeeper and myself had a trial at Torquay. The chief scout at Torquay was a gentleman called John James, and JJ, as he was known, always done his scouting. He was from Blackheath in like sort of just outside Dudley, and so known like the Black Country to most really up there. And he was doing it, and he lived in Torquay. But what he did was, he used to come up to Birmingham, and all the players that probably got released by Blues, Coventry, Villa, Walsall, Wolverhampton Wanderers, West Bromwich Albion, he'd just work around those, because he, in his eyes, with one of those dropouts, they're probably not be good enough for the Midland clubs, but it'd certainly be good enough for me. And through that system, Lee Sharp came through that system at Manchester United, and that was a system that I came through and still serve today. So I was at Walsall at the time. I got let go by Walsall, and I got offered for a trial at Torquay. So I ended up leaving Birmingham and going 180 miles down to Devon and trialling at this football club. And at the time, Torquay was in the old 4th division, but they were probably, I think, 8, 9, 10 points clear. And yeah, that I got taken on as a scholar at Torquay. So leaving Birmingham, going 180 miles down to a real small place. You think of the grand scale of Birmingham, and then going down to Torquay, and then you're going from a multicultural and diverse community into a predominantly white English community down there, really small town and village, was a real eye-opener. So for me, it was a real eye-opener for it. But again, the attributes that I learned and the skill sets I learned in Birmingham was able to sort of position me in Torquay. And over probably a 3 to 6 month period, I settled right on down, got to grips with the role. Something that I wanted to do was to get to work close to becoming a professional footballer. and the opportunity was presented itself at Torquay United, and there I was off and running in something that I really aspired, that I wanted to do, and I was able to get my teeth into it.
Just on that then, so there might be people who are listening or watching, Darren, that are interested around that transition, and there might be people, thinking about the coaching route and kind of putting themselves in uncomfortable situations, and testing themselves in terms of being in a different demographic. How did you cope with that as a player?
Yeah, again, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because it probably took me, Christy, about 6 months being in Torquay and till I settled down. And what I meant was not in the football. The football I was fine with, training every day, coming back, working on my fitness, skill sets, learning the game, understanding the game. That was going on a daily basis. The bit where I had to settle down was the cultural difference. Within 6 months being down there and being away from home, you got to remember I'm only a lad what's just probably turned 16, and in a different area and growing up, and away from quite a large family, away from my brothers and sisters and everything else. And that was a real big difference. That was one where you had to stand on your 2 feet and sort of make it work, really, and being adaptable. And I think that was the bit really that served me well and helped me to grow up really, really quickly. Obviously, I had a lovely family that I moved in with down there that was digs at the time, and they looked after me. And really, now to this day, now I still speak to them now, and I'm very grateful for all what they've done for me and helping shape my career to where it is now. So the transition was huge, but then the vehicle for me was keeping that football and keeping that consistency. But in terms of the cultural change, I reckon I managed to bridge that gap over about 6 months, really. And what I mean is, when I was down there, it was football, home, and never really ventured anywhere else. I didn't really go out in the town. I didn't go out in the village or anything else. It was just football, home. And then after about 5-6 months being down there, I remember having the first weekend I stayed down and I went out and explored it myself, and I knew then I'd cracked it, really.
In terms of obviously that process, I suppose just maybe from what you said in the reflection is like you're avoiding maybe distractions, so you've kind of focused on the process of playing, and you mentioned home and recovery and rest and maturity as well within that. Do you think that experience maybe enabled you to have that longevity within the game in terms of the other clubs that you played for, around going into different environments and representing other football clubs? Do you feel that experience benefited you in the long run?
Yeah, for me, the bit what was really crucial as well, which is great that you mentioned, is that when I was just 16 and leaving home, I remember me saying to my dad that, Dad, I've got an opportunity to go and trial at Torquay and earn myself a scholarship. And my dad was really, at the time, was fantastic in terms of the advice he gave me. And the advice he gave me was, okay, son, he said, how long are you going down there for? I said, it's a week's trial. He said, okay. He said, do me a favour. He said, when you come back to me, he said, do me a favour. He said, just make sure that you come back to me with no regrets. So you just go and give it your all and just come back to me. So when you see me next week, just say to me, I've got no regrets. So I looked at him and I said, okay, then I'm going to go do that. So I went down there, Christy, and for the whole week, a week then turned into another week. And then I did a week's trial down there, and then I stayed on another week to go and play for the reserves. And it was a massive accolade for me to stay on and play for Torquay United's reserves in the South West Counties League, semi-professional league. And that, for somebody so young, was incredible. And I came back to him about 12 days later, and I said to him, Dad, because when I was down there for that time, all I was just thinking is, when I go back and see my dad, I just want to say to him, I've got no regrets. So when I came back to him, I said to him, Dad, they've offered me a 2-year deal. And he said, there you go. So when I look back at it now, in the age I am now, I see what my dad was doing for me then, inspiring me then, really. And that's the way I've always gone with it, Christie's. When I look at my career, my managerial career, I've just gone with the attitude of, everything that you do, try and do it as well as you can and just have no regrets, really, with it. and that stands me in good stead, really, in terms of what I'm trying to just implement and do, and working in this environment and doing the job that I'm trying to do on a consistent basis, and impacting the community and everything else going forward.
So just on that then, Darren. So obviously following Torquay, there was an array of different football clubs that you played for. Going to West Bromwich Albion, you mentioned being a local lad. Did you feel like that pressure from knowing the area, knowing the surrounding people that would follow you and support you at West Brom, and being from Birmingham? Did you feel that sense of pressure to play at the football club in comparison to maybe other clubs, just for the fact that you're a local lad and people know you as the Brummie playing for West Bromwich Albion?
Yeah, when I came back to play at West Brom, I was at Portsmouth, and then I brought it to West Brom. I mean, it was such a special time for me, because obviously growing up in Handsworth, play for West Brom, I came to football because of West Brom, and the reason being was when my dad called me in off the street playing cricket with my friends, he exposed me to a game of football which was on the TV. That game of football was West Bromwich Albion. And the reason why it was so strong in the black community was, at the time, West Brom had the 3 degrees in Brendan Batson, Cyril Regis and Laurie Cunningham. So you can imagine, for us in the area, proud as punch to see 3 players of that culture and nationality played for your local team. And West Brom at the time were in the top flight. So there was great exposure, and my dad was able to show me a game of that magnitude and explain to the game. And it was from that point for me that I decided that I wanted to go and play football. So for me, the reason that West Brom, and then me coming back home into Birmingham and then playing for West Brom, you can imagine me as a local, every single game meant something for me at West Brom, because me living in the area, my dad coming back from the Bradford Bakeries, which was across the road from the Albion ground where he worked, and my mum working in the local hospital, where they were both always, when they knew that, who their son was, played for the Albion, and all the fans and that, they'd come on with messages at the weekend and saying, like, is he ready for the game tomorrow? So my dad was able to do that. So you feel that added pressure, working in and sort of living in that area and playing for a local team, and playing against the derby matches, the games, all those kind of things that adds extra significance, because it's an area where you've grown up, lived in, and you hold the club really close to your heart. So it had extra onus every time I played for the club. It had extra for me.
Did you enjoy that? You mentioned obviously representing the community and being inspired by some of the role models prior to your journey at West Brom. Did you enjoy that element of pressure to play and prove yourself?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was special because it kept me on the edge. It kept me really sort of burning and loving the game and loving the success that we had at West Brom and everything else. And, I'm really grateful that every time I've gone back to the Albion, that the fans really show their appreciation, and everybody at the club shows their appreciation for the time I had there. And it's still one of the first results you look forward to away from the football, just to see how they're getting on and see how things are. And they're in a good position at the moment and doing really, really well. And, potentially could be making another return back to the top flight, if things go well for them this season. So, yeah, for me, growing up then and playing back for the Albion had extra added edge for me, but certainly one that I revelled in and marvelled in, and I enjoyed it.
Everything that you see on this channel, from the scripts to the interviews to the thumbnails, etc., is all off my own back. And to help the channel grow and to help me out, could you please click the subscribe button down below? It's absolutely free to do, and the more subscribers we get on this channel, the bigger the guests and the bigger the entertainment is for you to have some great insights to explore some of the things that are happening within the sporting world. So please click the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. I'm more interested in that transition, becoming a manager. So, during the process from Torquay coming to the end of your playing career, did you always want to be a football manager, or did it something that maybe transpired during the journey, or you realised and reflected on certain things that you go, okay, I'm good at certain things that might be useful within a coaching realm? I'm just interested on how you cope with that transition.
Yeah, for me, when I was first playing, obviously it was just a playing. Then during whilst I was playing, I did my coaching badges, and in truth and reality, the thing for me was to be a real good coach and a top flight coach, working in the Premier League at a Premier League club with Premier League players, and being a really good coach. Obviously, along the way, what you don't maybe realise to yourself is probably along the way you was always probably destined for a manager. And why do I say that? Is because I was always captained at my football club on a lead by example, and always had lead roles in clubs, under 18s, 23s, loans manager, first team coach, and of course then along that journey you probably don't see yourself in that managerial role. But when I was at West Brom, I got offered a role as a manager role, a caretaker manager's role for the final 6 games of the Premier League season when, it was a season that was going terribly wrong. And when I look back at it now, obviously the board and the hierarchy obviously saw qualities in me that they thought, do you know what, we're going to give Darren the role and allow him to lead the team. In that 6 games, we led the team out of the 18 points available. I think we took 12. So, and in the Premier League, and that was the turning point for me in terms of making that transition from player to manager and coming across. And that's been a real incredible journey that's been full of so much excitement, so much, you're really in the fast lane. You really got to be thinking on your feet. You really always got to be a step ahead and always be in an organisational manner, because the wheel just keeps turning, the hurdles just keep coming, and you just got to be ready to keep rising above them and getting above them. And that's where I see myself and now coming into it. So it was a real introduction to management, probably not the ideal way you'd have wanted it, but in management, usually it's never really the ideal way. Very few or far get the idealistic way to step into management and manage.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, your journey at Portsmouth, you built a relationship with Tony Pulis as a manager and player. Did you think that benefited you maybe later down the line in terms of those 18-23 roles whilst Tony Pulis was manager? Did that support you in terms of that element of learning and learning the process of coaching?
Like definite, like 100%, like definite. I'm so sure, because he was a manager at the time, and that kind of took me under his wing because I was his captain at Portsmouth. So we had a wonderful working relationship. But what was unique with Tony was, again, some of the messages and some of the lessons he taught me whilst he was managing. And they're so valuable for me going forward, that I'm so grateful for him. And when I look back at some of the things and some of the scenarios and some of the environments he put me in, but some of the teaching he gave me in terms of management, you're talking somebody there that's already managed over 1,000 games. Very few managers have got to that in the English pyramid of football, and he has. So the vast knowledge and experience he's got, and the many situations he's been in, he was teaching me at the time, and me unbeknowing and not knowing at the time was absolutely crucial and vital. And when I look back at some of the things I'm doing now and managing now, some of the situations that I've got to relatively quickly in my head was because of some of the situations I saw him in and manage in, and then be in the inner sanctuary and hear how his thinking was behind that and his actions was behind it, really. And that was instrumental for me. And so I'm really grateful for him, and somebody that I'm still very much in contact with now. I'm very much somebody who classes a real dear friend.
Just on that then, Darren, so following Pulis at West Brom, there was Pardew, and then you get given the role, and you mentioned that element of looking at Tony Pulis and looking at these managers and seeing the amount of games that they've played. Did you feel like a sense of imposter syndrome going into that position, and how did you cope with that in terms of, okay, you're the one in charge now and you have to make certain decisions? I'm just interested on that concept, if that ever came into your brain during that period.
You don't yes, you are making decisions. Yes, you're open to this whole world of media. That's goes hand in hand with the role. But also you're making decisions, and you're making decisions right from the whole structure of the football club and the football inside. And what you're doing, you're making decisions on within the internal departments in the football club. Your hands over the team. And once you get that right for result on the Saturday, your then results sending ripples into the community. So you're in a unique position where you feel you're managing over such a multitude of people on different levels and different aspects. So that was something that was becoming a real and reality. But you try and prepare as best as you possibly can to do this, and everything you're doing it with an honest, open approach. And I think that's the bit where I was always trying to be true to myself and trying to say that everything I'm doing is for the goodness and the basis of the individual and the football club going forward. And that's always where I've always held that really at the forefront of all the meetings, everything that I'm doing is this benefiting the football club going forward. And I think that's the bit where I've always worked with and will continue to work with the individual or the individuals for the club going forward. And then with that, you hope you try and get as many of those right as you possibly can, which then has a knock-on effect within the structure and the fan base of the football club going forward.
Again, on that time, did you maybe have to get good people around you as well? They like to Jimmy Shan and other members of staff to support you with that process. And I'm more interested, you mentioned the culture and the community and how that kind of has a kind of a linear effect. During that time when you came in at West Brom, there was kind of a momentum towards the latter end. I think you went to Man United and won 1-0, and there was spells where you were picking up good results and you won Manager of the Month. Did you feel like something was happening there just because you based those values on, a sense of camaraderie and togetherness to try and change a bad situation into a positive one?
It was definitely a situation where there was a togetherness that we formed, a great bond within the club. And I think, that everybody knew my intentions and how I wanted to work, and they give people the freedom to work within their specific field and bring their expertise, because in anything for any football club to do well, there's so many departments that has to align. There's so many departments away from the football pitch that has to align in order to give you the best opportunity on the football pitch to bring that alignment into a physical focus and a physical being in terms of the results. What we did at West Brom was all those elements did align. We had a group of people behind the scenes, staff, really coming to the forefront and just working together as one. And we had a group of players that, the most important thing was for me was, the draw against Swansea. There was a different feel at the training ground at the Albion, because there was a different feel in the sense that I hadn't tasted defeats. And even though we drew 1-1, it was a positive because it stopped the rot. And I think the bit where we got lift off was where we went away to Old Trafford and we won 1-0 at Old Trafford, which ended up presenting Manchester City with a Premier League title. And so when that was announced, but the big thing was there was a big discussion because it meant the blue half of Manchester got the title. But for me, the adulation was just seeing those players win again and feeling the winning feeling again as a group of men. That look and memory will always stand firm in my sight and in my heart, in seeing those players feel that. And of course, off the back of that, so you've had 2 games, you've picked up a draw against Swansea, you've picked up a win at Manchester United, then furthermore picked up. So then after the Manchester United, we end up drawing with Liverpool, Champions League finalists 2-2 at the Hawthorns. We go away to Newcastle, we win 1-0, Rafa Benitez. We drew 1-2 with Jurgen Klopp, Jose Mourinho, and then we beat 1-0 against Mauricio Pochettino. At Tottenham, we win 1-0. So incredibly, we, from being cut adrift, all of a sudden, we've got a chance of actually staying in the Premier League. But there was one thing that was outside of our control. Was on the Wednesday, there was a game at Swansea against Southampton, and we needed that game to finish in a 0-0 draw. That means we could take it to the last game against Crystal Palace. And we was the informed team. Of course, it's well documented. I got the Manager of the Month award in the Premier League. You got this person what's had the first 5 games ever, 6 games of his managerial career in the Premier League. at one of the so-called lower clubs in the Premier League and getting these results against these real big hitters in the Premier League. And the game on Wednesday night, Southampton won 1-0, which meant it ended West Bromwich Albion chance of survival, because I really feel if we had to go to Crystal Palace and get a run, we was on an incredible momentum, hadn't lost in 5 games, going into your 6th game, needing a result away at Palace. The momentum we had was incredible. So when that hit, that impacted the club, because on the Thursday, it was confirmed. And then Friday, Saturday, we travelled to London, and then, we ended up losing the game, Palace 2-0 the last game. But I credit the players, the staff and everything for the way they conducted themselves was incredible, because what we did was we restored pride within the football club. But after that, Christy, what happened with me was there was such public demand to give me the job or give me the opportunity to manage West Brom in the Championship. That's ultimately when my career sort of took off, because it went so well and the opportunity was given to me. And the opportunity was, I took the opportunity with both hands and just went on the experiences that I'd felt and seen as a player, a coach, other managers and coaches that I saw worked for, played for, and just tried to put them all in the melting pot and try and work. There's no specific formula for manager. It's the individual, each to their own. There's no specific blueprint that you've got to do this. It's just the experiences that you pick up, the nature, the feeling, the texture of football and playing, and you're just trying to apply it as best as you possibly can, including these multitude of people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis and trying to find the tune. And I think that's the certainly one of the arts of managing.
Were you sad to leave West Brom? You mentioned, throughout the podcast in terms of, that intrinsic drive, being a local lad, being inspired by the likes of Laurie Cunningham and those players in the 80s and 90s, and then kind of coming into your previous playing experience with West Brom. Were you sad to leave that from maybe a kind of an emotional point of view?
Yeah, obviously really sad to leave it at the time, because, I felt that at the time, the club had made a decision after 36 games. We was doing really, really well. And they made a decision, which I learned now later down the line. They made the decision to try and bring another more experienced campaigner in. But the process, when I look back at it now, was a well thought out process. So I ended up leaving the role and leaving the job. But something that we was on a crest of a wave of returning back to the Premier League. At the time, looking back at it now, it was the wrong decision for the club to make, because we lost a lot of ground and we stumbled, and then Aston Villa came through and took over at the time. So when I look back at it now, it probably weren't the most ideal time, but it is what it is, and it's football and it happens, and I won't be the first and it won't be the last. It's just you learn as an individual from it, and you try and take that with you for your next adventure, and you kind of learn. So really from it, as sad as I was to leave the club, I was quite proud in terms of my time at the football club as a player and as a manager, and addressing a situation that was pretty desperate at the time, and restoring some of the confidence and faith and the belief in the supporters and the structure of the football club.
I just want to ask you around the transitions that you have since West Brom. So you probably had time to reflect, and you have a role at Doncaster, and then you come into a massive institution, a big club in Sheffield Wednesday. During a period where COVID was happening and kind of those different things that you mentioned around, not being in control of the situation and having to deal with certain things around that period within football. Can you talk and give some insight on that and how that was for you from a leading and management point of view to kind of galvanise a team to try and look for promotion, but also, dealing with these variables that impact your way of performing effectively?
Yeah, so for me, the big thing for me was obviously when I left West Brom, I ended up going to Doncaster, and, there's a lot of talk about me going to Doncaster and, after the job that I did at West Brom, and there was a lot of talk, why am I going so low down and why am I taking that job and everything else. But for me, I just wanted to work. I really did just wanted to work, and sort of being a former player at Doncaster and reading up on the job, what Doncaster was looking for, I just thought it was right for us to go and connect together. And we had to wonderful years at Doncaster Rovers in terms of, yes, it was the time at COVID, so it hit really hard. But in terms of the team, where I managed to get it and leave it was absolutely fantastic, because we had 2 seasons and got disrupted by COVID, but 2 seasons of where we was in the playoffs and in 2 fantastic times, and to really get hold of what wonderful club Doncaster was. And you know, it was great to work there and be back there. And you know, at the time when I left, it was, I think we were 3rd or 4th in the league, and you know, with 3 games in hand and very much odds on in the second season to potentially go for automatic promotion. And then you get the phone call, and the club gets the phone call from Sheffield Wednesday, wanting to speak to me as an individual, and the football club Doncaster allowing me to speak to them. And then, of course, they showed an initiative to want to take me to Sheffield Wednesday, and the thought was, you know, a club of that size and stature, steeped in tremendous history and tradition in the football pyramid, years and generations, and that was the next port of call for me in terms of, can I get that real sleeping giant and really awaken it again? And there was so much things that happened to that football club. That was, the structure of the football club was messy. The environment was messy. The behavioural patterns was messy. The mannerisms in there was messy. So really what you end up doing, you learn from your time at Doncaster in terms of the roles that you had and working with the solid people that you did at the time. You remember what good practice looks like. And then with good practice, you apply it to the football club and just give it some consistency, some organisation, some continuity, and then put a team together where the fans can connect back to and bring that reality, because it was a time of COVID as well. So there was a dispel between the supporters and the players. There was a dispel in terms of a disconnection as well with the team and the group. So what we had to do was heal a club that was broken and bring the supporters back to the team and the team back to the supporters and get them going. And that's exactly what we did. The first year, we missed out by a second. Sunderland pipping us in the playoff final second leg and scoring a last minute winner. When I look back at that first year, it would have been an incredible, remarkable success story had we done it in the first season. With the transition and the amount of players that we had to change around that football club in the first year was incredible. So we missed out by a last minute goal to Sunderland, which eventually went up, and rightly so. And then what we did was we carried the work on in the summer and really got our recruitment process, continued that and got that right, and addressed the balance of the situation, and then went on an incredible run in a record-breaking season of 96 points. I think, Christy, if we'd have won, if any other season we go up as champions, we just had a unique season where we had Plymouth and Ipswich, 2 teams that had scored over 100 points in a real unique season. Yeah. And it was really pleasing to see all 3 clubs got promotion in the end, because we did ours through the playoffs, beating Barnsley in the final. But a real unique time and an epic time really at the football club. And the club was to put that club back to where it belongs, and, you know, to be part of, you know, resurrecting that club back to where it's supposed to be, fills me with good memories, good feeling. And again, it's another club that I was really pleased to be part of and bring it back to, put it back to where it was.
Just on that, you mentioned the record points in League One at that time, and you know, hitting such a high target, but entering the playoffs. How do you know, revitalise a group to kind of go again in that period? Because you must have been disappointed that you've missed out on automatic, but then have the opportunity to play extra games and try and, you know, get promotion again. Is it hard as a manager to try and get the team motivated again? I'm just interested on your experience there.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it was the players. It was hard, but I think probably if anybody took it the hardest, I think it was myself. I really struggled with it really in the summer months, really, in terms of missing out by a real whisker, because there was such a determination and a desire to get the club going again, and I was really burning with a real element to really get the club going up and going again. And in the summer, it just served as a I think the hurt really pushed us and drove us, really did, and that ultimately drove us. And when you look at the points tally, you think in the first season you get something like 85 points or something like that, and the second season you get 96. There's a real driven aspect, really, that, for 2 consistent seasons, we are definitely knocking on the door to want to get back to the Championship, ways where we felt we belonged as a club. And that's all what I really saw, really, in terms of that. So the temperament and the desire was always there, and we was driven to do it. So the second season we did, and yet we did it through the playoffs. But there was a real determination and desire. And the first year in the playoffs kind of helped in a way, even though against Peterborough you don't see you're losing 4-0 in the first leg. But the second leg was a huge transformation. And to get that done, it was epic football, and football that dreams are made of, really. And to be part of that was extraordinary, but was real. And as I said, we had a group of people there at the time that was there for such a time as this, and we managed to get it done, and that fills me with great joy and real great passion, really. And even now, when I look back at where the club's at now, it's you have a sense of satisfaction that was certainly a job well done there.
Talk to me about that process of being 4-0 down against Peterborough. Talk to me about your management there to try and bring something back, and obviously achieving that. There's all these famous finals in the past, Istanbul, and everyone's and other finals where comebacks have happened, but everyone's always intrigued by what the manager does. So do you want to maybe give a little bit of insight on what Darren Moore does when he's 4-0 down to try and get the team winning?
Well, for me, did I ever foresee us losing the first leg 4-0? No, I don't think any manager would do, not especially for us, where you'd gone into the playoff first leg and you've got the best defensive record in the league. So you don't expect to go to Peterborough and be 4-0 down. But when I look back at the game, with the chances created, on the night they had probably 5 chances and converted 4. We had probably 7 or 8 chances and created nothing with a Stonewall penalty. So the game didn't really necessarily pan out and play to where it was, and I had to watch the game back and keep a sense of perspective in terms of how the game was for the second game. And then what we did was we looked at the game, and there was still another leg to play, and my job was to make sure that the team is prepared as best as possible for that game. So I had 4 or 5 days to really prepare the team, and that's what I went about and done it. So the first thing first was to get back in the middle of the night and watch the video over probably 3-4 hour block, and just look at it till I think we got back at 1 a.m. in the morning, and I stayed up till 7 a.m. But I knew by 7 a.m. I had a game plan in my head for that playoff semi-final second leg. And then it's just about executing the game plan to perfection over those 4 or 5 days, and making sure I've got a group of players on the same page. The next thing I did was, the next day was meant to be a day off. I got everybody in because I didn't want them to listen to all the social media negativity. So I did. I got the players in, and the day off, what they did have was meant to spend with the families. I brought them in, so I was trying to control the mind. And the mind was to watch the videos of us scoring goals at Hillsborough. And I think that season we'd already, in the league, we'd scored 65 goals. So when you break it down or something like that, we'd scored an average 3 goals per game at Hillsborough. So we only needed a 20 or 25% of goals. We needed that 4th one. So it was looking into that. It was breaking it down and looking into, we felt we had over the course of the game, with injury time, we had 26 minutes per half to score a goal. When you look at that in football, there's a lot of time to create chances and score a goal. The beauty on the night was, when we did play, we scored 2 goals after 25 minutes, so it was game on. And of course that gave the crowd belief. But in between that as well, there was a real mind messing around psychological thing with the players. On Monday morning when we got in, I'd done penalties with them. I put loudspeaker boxes on there with chorus of boos from fans, and the boys trained under the chorus of boos because that was the environment that we was going to be playing under. I took them at the stadium, and again, even chorus of boos on the mic. So they were training under extreme pressure. And after every training session, we'd done penalties, because I said it's going to go to penalties, because when we get back to it, will go to penalties. So there was a real mindset, psychological, physical elements of it, messages, playing videos of comebacks every single day, not just in football, in boxing, in golf, in athletics. Every single day, the players had 2 videos of some sort of comebacks and some sort of reality that it can be done. It's what we're going to do. And I said, it's going to be, it's going to be a miracle, but we are going to do it. And it's going to be a miracle, not in the fact that we can't do it. It's going to be a miracle because nobody's ever done it from 4 goals down. And that's why it was that, really. And that's why we came together as a group of people, and real grateful. And obviously, by the grace of God as well, we managed to turn around that deficit at Hillsborough. Hillsborough's a place where, if ever you're going to do it, we had 33,000 in there hanging from the rafters, really. So once we scored the first goal after 9 minutes, and then the second after 20-odd minutes, there was lift off, really. And by the time we got in at half-time, the noise at Hillsborough was just absolutely deafening, because there was a real belief, and it just gave us the upper hand. And what seemed impossible, or at the time, some of the commentators used the word insurmountable, was very much possible at the time. And was really grateful that we managed to pull it off and take it to extra time, take it to penalties. Once it went to penalties, I knew we'd already studied, we'd already practiced it, and we executed 5 well-taken penalties that took us to Wembley to the final, and that's how we got the job done.
What was your feeling after, the playoffs, getting back to promotion, job done? Was it kind of relief for you?
Yeah, relief, job done. Went to the summer, had the summer months, and I just thought, job done. What I was brought to the football club to do was completed. And I at the time where the club was at now, then to where the club's at now, is chalk and cheese, really, in terms of when we took it and when we got it. But what a wonderful club, what a marvellous football club. And they're back in the second tier football where they belong, and I'm sure the aspirations for there is to try and go that next step and see if they can build it to try and get a chance of getting into the Prem.
We've got a couple of subscriber questions from some students. I'm going to give you 2, just based on what we've talked about. Obviously, Huddersfield Town and Port Vale. But we've touched on Port Vale briefly, but not so much Huddersfield Town. But obviously, just cautious of time. But one question that came in from a subscriber was, Darren, you're one of 2 coaches from an ethnic background in the footballing pyramids. What are your thoughts on this as a whole?
Yeah, incredible, really, that I'm one of 2. When we're talking that we're in the year 2024, it's quite alarming that I'm just one of 2, really. And, you're talking of me as being a pioneer in somebody of colour in a managerial position within the game. Seems strange, seems bizarre, seems crazy, when there is so much more my peers out there with a huge wealth in terms of background knowledge of the game, skill sets out there ready to serve the game, that are not in those positions where they're able to showcase their skill sets. It really is beyond me, really, that there's only one of 2. I'm one of 2 in this position. The bit for me was just to keep championing those individuals, collective groups, and letting the outside world and the football fraternity know that, which they know already, that there's a wealth of experienced people out there that are longing for that opportunity to ply their trade in the game, and I really sincerely hope that the opportunity where they can be heard, and those opportunities can be met with the opportunity to give that person that chance to, whether it be manage or coach, or whether it may be at the real senior level is met and implemented going forward, because to only be one or two in the year 2024, you know, we're losing a whole generation of potential managers, coaches, and different roles within the game. That's only going to benefit the game and make the game better. It's a beautiful game already, but it could be so much better with the vast amount of diversity that we can bring in some of these leading positions.
You mentioned you being a pioneer. Do you find people from an ethnic background come to you for maybe advice or inspiration based on what you've done in the game already, and you support them, in their career?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. There's a lot of seminars that I'm talking to at the moment and trying to share my experiences with it going forward. There is a lot. And I do find younger coaches talking to me within the game about the position, the situation, the steps that, you know, I've taken going forward. And you do advise and help as best as you possibly can in the situations that they may face with. And all situations are different. But I'm always open and quite happy to share situations and that. You know, you've heard me share some bits and pieces today with my career and how my career sort of went forward, and I was given the opportunity at West Brom and given the opportunity, probably unexpected at the time. It's moved on to this situation now where I can't remember how many hundreds of games I've managed at management level now, and probably going into my 6th or 7th year as a manager, and at my 5th club now, just goes to show that, you know, where opportunity was met kind of unexpectedly, and what's happened with my career to date. So that's why I extend and say there's many of my peers out there now waiting, trying, studying, applying for roles in this to take the game forward in their own way, and I extend that to the authorities, to the employment clubs, all those that, you know, if the opportunity for them, when you think of how it was met for me, there's so many different routes and ways that others can take as well to be given the opportunity.
We've got one more question from a student. Oliver Newton asks, who's your favourite ever player that you've coached and why?
It's a difficult one for me to say a particular player, because there's so many different players I've coached and managed. But goodness me, have they all given me something back and taught me ways in the game and helped me to, you know, in terms of their management, but also brought into what I've been trying to help them in their careers. One thing I've always said with players that I've worked with, I've always gone with the element of trying to improve that individual, however which way it may be. I've always tried to improve them and worked alongside them, and we've always had an honest and open conversation. So for me to particularly stand up here and pick the one particular player that was outstanding for me to coach with, I've been grateful for them all, and I would pick one really.
But what about maybe a player that you've coached that you see as a coach? Is there anyone that you might think, okay, they've got aspirations to be a coach based on their leadership and their playing style?
I think now it's only particularly now that maybe, I mean, they get into that stage in their careers, but none of them have quite broken through yet. And I am looking, watching, and seeing if any of them are going to break through, but none of them have broke through as yet in terms of the ones that I've coached and managed at the moment. So I'm waiting to see really, but there is potentially one or two that could potentially show signs, but none of them have really broke through. And I'd hate to throw names out there and put that individual under any pressure at all, because so that's what we're doing at the moment, but none of them at the moment, no.
So final question then, Darren. I always ask the guests that I interview to maybe look back or as well as look forward, and we've kind of looked back over the last hour or so, but looking forward, what are your ambitions for Port Vale, and what is the kind of aims and objectives you set for yourself on your managerial career going ahead?
I think the aim for Port Vale Football Club first was to address them, get them connected back within the support system at this football club in terms of the fans and the community of Burslem and Tunstall, really. That's number one. The thing for the football club as well is obviously to look to try and, like anybody else in League Two, is to try and gain promotion. But the big thing at the football club at Port Vale is, whilst that is a focus and a dream, the idea as well at the football club is to realign the club and bring all departments of the football club together as one. So there's a huge project going on at this football club in terms of getting the team up through the pyramids of the leagues, but also addressing the club and bring the club and unifying the club as one, and a club that's very much connected back to the community. And that's why Vale, there's a real project going on, really. And you know, upon me leaving Huddersfield, I was so grateful to take the phone call from Port Vale with the opportunity of managing this magnificent football club. And that's been it. There's been huge amounts of work's gone over the summer. And what we saw is, with the hard work that's gone over the summer, we see the club, the team, in a real good place at the moment. But we know that it's only the start of the work that we've implemented at the football club. And right from the very, very top, from Kevin and Carol Shanahan, right the way through the football club, we're just all aligned in terms of what we want to try and achieve at this football club in going forward. And we've given ourselves a solid start, but it's only a solid start. But we know there's so much work to be done. There's so much work, Christy, going on and off the pitch to achieve that. So we've started, but we know we've got a long way to go. So that's the outlook in terms of the mindset, what we're thinking with the football club going forward. And it's great to be part of that.
Darren, I just want to conclude and say thank you for your time. You speak very openly and honestly. I love the fact that you mentioned your upbringing in Birmingham, and it's kind of led you to have it's led you to have values that have helped people grow within football. It's helped you understand yourself in terms of developing a sense of community, a sense of togetherness, a sense of camaraderie with fans, etc. So I just want to wish you all the best at Port Vale going forward. And more importantly as well, we mentioned kind of the element of breaking barriers down. Hope that continues to thrive in terms of you being the pioneer of that. And hopefully that can be pushed even further from a societal point of view, but more importantly from a footballing point of view. So just want to say thank you again, Darren, and good luck in the future.
Thanks, Christian. And obviously to all the students that have tuned in, and that, you know, my message would be, once you've set your mind and your heart on it, go with it fully, focus, full of heart, full of vigor, full of determination, and do your best to make it happen. And as I said, have no regrets.